Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Did Muslims in the life of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam ever came to the Indian subcontinent? This topic is not my obsession, as some of you may be thinking and are writing in the comments. Rather, this is a topic that we have been covering as an offshoot of the pre-Islamic Arabia. And of course, the request came from you guys, so we are simply pursuing that. Well, at the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there is no authentic narration that we can pinpoint and say, well, the companions did reach the land of subcontinent India. Well, but few years after the passing away of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, during the times of the caliphate of Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu, Muslims did arrive in the outskirts of what we now call the Pakistan-India region. As we know that Arabian Peninsula is surrounded by water on three sides. And it's not just surrounded by water on three sides, but that was a very, very busy water. On one side you have Red Sea, a lot of trade is happening, coming down from Egypt all the way to Yemen. And then you have the southern ports where you have Yemen and you have Oman. So all of those regions that are going into the Indian Ocean, a lot of trade is happening between the Sindh and the Hind and the China, Malaysia. All of those countries are coming and doing trading in Yemen area. Also, if you look in the Persian Gulf side, so one side is Qatar and Oman, and I'm talking about the modern days, and Bahrain and parts of Saudi Arabia, and we have Emirat, we have Iraq, all of that region that's in the Persian Gulf. Even back in those days, there were a lot of settlements of Arabs and settlements of the people from Hind and the Sindh in that region that we have spoken quite extensively about. So on all three sides where the Arabian Peninsula has sea or water, there was trade going on, there was travel going on. But is there any evidence of any companion traveled outside the Arabian Peninsula into the Indian Ocean and through the Indian Ocean into the Indian subcontinent? We do not have any evidence in the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but that doesn't mean that companions never traveled. Companions did travel. They went to Africa. We have evidences of a bunch of companions who were trying to come to Medina through the Red Sea, but because of the wind, they ended up in Ethiopia or Abyssinia. And they were greeted by the companions who were settled in Abyssinia, and these people came with those companions later on to Medina. Similarly, Imam Hassan Basri rahimahullah reports it through Sumra radiyallahu anhu that كان أصحاب رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم that the companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to do trade, were businessmen that would travel in waters fil bahr. And similarly, once a group of people came to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and these were hunters. And they said to the Prophet ﷺ that أَنَّا نَرْكَبُ الْبَحْرِ, that we ride on the sea. I mean, like we basically travel in waters, and with us is very, very little water. So there's a detailed account of it, but I just wanted to emphasize on this. And also, Khatib Baghdadi rahimahullah in Mawda' Awham al-Jam' wa-Tafriq reports it from Muslim bin Abi Imran Usti. He reports it from Abdullah ibn Abbas radiyallahu ta'ala anhu that a woman traveled through the waters, and then she basically فَنَذَرْتُ, and she said that I will fast for 1 full month. However, before she could fast for 1 full month, she died. So her sister came to Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and said that my sister made this nazar that whenever she could, she will fast for 1 full month, but she passed away, so what should I do? And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, why don't you fast on her behalf? This and many other stories tell us that companions used to travel, men or women, via sea route. And also, if you remember those people who migrated to Abyssinia from Mecca, not once but twice, they also took the sea route from a port close to the modern-day Jeddah, and they went all the way to Abyssinia. And they came back and met the Prophet ﷺ when he was conquering Khaybar. That is probably 6th year of Hijrah. And some of them probably came as late as 7th year of Hijrah. Similarly, when Prophet ﷺ sent Amr bin Umayyah Damri all the way to Abyssinia, around that time, some people from Yemen, from the tribe of Ash'ar, there were 52 of them. They wanted to come and meet the Prophet ﷺ in Medina. So they were traveling through the Red Sea, and because of the high winds, their ship turned towards Abyssinia. So instead of coming to Medina, they landed in Abyssinia. And they were greeted by the Muhajirun who had traveled earlier on in the Meccan period to Abyssinia. And they were the one who greeted them. And these 52 people stayed with them till the 7th year of the Hijrah, and they came and met the Prophet ﷺ. And these are the people that in the book of history or the book of the Seerah, these are the people who are called Ahl al-Safina, the people of the ship. Similarly, we know that famous story of Tamim Dari, who was traveling and he ended up at an island where he met with Dajjal, and with him 30 other men from the tribes of Lakhm and Jazam. And we already learn about these Lakhmites who were settled close to Persia, where you have modern-day Iraq. So there are evidences of companions traveling. In the 6th year of Hijrah, or to 7th year of Hijrah, maybe beyond that point, Prophet ﷺ wrote several letters towards several kings and emperors who were not just limited to the Arabian Peninsula, but as far as the Roman Emperor and the Persian Emperor, and to the king of Bahrain, to the king of Muscat, or the kings of Muscat, and also different other places. So Amr ibn al-As al-Sahmi, he was sent to Oman, to Jafar and Ayad, the two brothers who used to rule Oman at that time. Similarly, Sulayd bin Amr radiallahu anhu was sent to Yamama, and also towards Hawzah. And Ala bin Hadrami was sent towards Bahrain to Mundhar bin Sawa. And a lot of these places that I'm talking about, be it the land of Thamama ibn Uthal, or be it the land of Oman, or be it the land of Bahrain, there were lots of people who were settled over here who had their roots in Hind and Sindh region. And some historians have also stated that some people from as far as China used to come to these ports and would trade over here. If they were settled over here permanently or not, we do not know much about it, but they did used to show up in these regions for the trading purposes, either to sell their commodities or to buy commodities that make their way all the way through the Arabian Peninsula. There is one evidence of the companions, which is, as I told you, is a lie, as stated by several historians, like Hafiz ibn Hajar in Isaba talks about the three companions going all the way to Qanuj and meeting the king Sarbatak. And we have talked about that neither Huzaifa ibn Yaman, nor Usama ibn Zayd, nor Suhaib al-Rumi, none of them actually went as far as Qanuj and met the king, and he accepted Islam, and he never made it his way all the way to Arabia and became the companion. That is a lie, as written by Hafiz ibn Hajar, that it's a lie. And also Imam Dhahabi in Tajreed Asma'i al-Sahaba also says that this is kidhb. And similarly, in another book, which is Jam' al-Jawami', it is mentioned that 5 companions came all the way to Sindh, and 2 of them went back and 3 of them stayed in Sindh. But again, this particular narration is also written without any evidence. And among the muhaddithin, or among the historians also, it is not considered mu'tabar. It doesn't carry any weight or value because it is unproven. And also, ulama have not been able to find the original book, Jam' al-Jawami', which is referenced to be the book where these 5 companions are mentioned. There is a book by the name of Jam' al-Jawami', which is written by Imam Suyuti rahimahullah, but in that book there is no such narration. And usually we find it from the people of Sindh, this particular narration, that 5 companions of the Prophet brought the letter of the Prophet to the region of Sindh, and they came and settled at the Niran Kot, where some people accepted Islam through these 5 companions, and out of the 5 companions, 2 returned back and the other 3 stayed back in Sindh where they passed away. And several people accepted Islam through them. However, as I said, there is no evidence about this particular thing. However, we know for sure that during the time of Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu, Muslims came to the Hind and the Sindh region. So at that time, from the place called Bab al-Hind, which was in Bahrain back in those days. Bahrain of that time is not the same as Bahrain of today. Bahrain of today is just an island. But back in those days, it was not just limited to this island. It was a much larger region in the Arabian Peninsula, which we have talked about before as well. So from Bahrain, there was a group of Muslims who came all the way as far as modern day Bombay or Mumbai, which back in those days used to be called the Bharuch, and also came to Gujarat, also came to Dibal, which is in Pakistan, Sindh, and also went to some of the southern Hind regions. So 4 years after the passing away of the Prophet ﷺ, we see some evidences of the companions coming as far as the Indian subcontinent, at least in its outskirts. And during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, Ala al-Hadrami and Aban bin Sa'id bin Asi, these people were stationed near those regions which had higher Sindh and Hind population. So Ala Hadrami was given the place of Qatif, and Aban was given Khat. And both of these regions were closer to the places where there was presence of people from Hind and Sindh. But these 2 places are part of the Arabian Peninsula. But these people, in their leadership role, did have an opportunity of meeting with the people from Hind and Sindh. During the time of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, reinstated Ala al-Hadrami in the same place, but Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu replaced him with Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, who was made governor of Bahrain. And Abu Hurairah was instated on the governorship of Bahrain, and Ala al-Hadrami was given the Supreme Court, the judge, and given the responsibility of taking care of religious affairs and taking care of the matters of zakat and khiraj, and all of those things were under Ala al-Hadrami, where Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu was responsible for governing. So since both of these individuals have had their time spent in this region where there was a heavy presence of people from Hind and Sindh, because we were talking about the Bahrain, which is so close to Persia, and so it is quite possible that people from Hind and Sindh would have come in contact with these 2 people. And around 15 Hijrah, Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu replaced Abu Hurairah as a governor of Bahrain with Uthman bin Abi al-As al-Thaqafi, and he was made the governor of Bahrain. And during his time, Uthman bin Abi al-As al-Thaqafi, he sent in 3 different groups towards India to attack, because remember, Persian land was getting conquered or was about to be conquered, while their Indian friends, the Indian friends of Persia, were trying to interfere or were helping the Persians. And also there was presence of a lot of Indian pirates in the Arabian Sea. And these pirates, to some extent, were backed by their governments. So that's why it was very important to not only teach the lessons to those kings who underhand were trying to help the Persian Empire through enforcements or reinforcements or alliances, or also those who were guarding the pirates. So around 15th Hijrah, there were some attacks on Tana and Bharuch and Dibal, and different places. And remember that Uthman bin Abi al-As al-Thaqafi radiyallahu anhu, Uthman bin Abi al-As al-Thaqafi radiyallahu anhu, in 9th Hijrah, he accepted Islam along with some people from Banu Thaqif, which is a tribe in Ta'if. So in the duration of the rule of Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiyallahu anhu, and in the earlier time of Sayyidina Umar radiyallahu anhu, Uthman bin Abi al-As al-Thaqafi remained ruler of Ta'if alone. And then later on, Sayyidina Umar radiyallahu anhu moved him and made him the leader or the governor of Bahrain and also Oman. And he had several brothers, like Uthman bin Abi al-As, his one brother, and he had a brother by the name of Hakam bin al-As, and then Mughira bin Abi al-As, and Hafs bin Abi al-As. And Uthman ruled the Bahrain and the Oman region in the earlier times. And when Uthman bin Abi al-As was made governor of Bahrain and Oman, he called upon his brother Hakam bin Abi al-As from Ta'if, and he sent him to Bahrain. And then he himself went to Oman. And then he went to Oman and prepared an army of mutatawwi'een and some other people who wanted to fight for the cause of Islam. And under the leadership of his brother, he sent this small army towards Hind. And this army went as far as Bombay and Gujarat. And when his brother Hakam bin Abi al-As attacked these regions, he was quite successful in his attacks. And then Uthman bin Abi al-As sent his another brother, Mughira bin Abi al-As, towards Dibal. And then he was also successful in his conquests, and he also came back victorious. But none of these attacks were made to have a permanent settlement at these places, but merely they were testing waters where they went, and they defeated those people who were causing unrest, and they came back. Just to show that there is a change of leadership in the region. So Persian Empire is not the underdog here. It is basically the Islamic Empire that has the superiority in the waters now. So don't mess with our caravans, don't mess with our people. And when these small groups came back, Uthman Thaqafi wrote a detailed description of this to Sayyidina Umar radiyallahu anhu. Sayyidina Umar radiyallahu anhu was unaware of these movements, especially these water-based movements. Sayyidina Umar radiyallahu anhu never liked these water-based movements, as he was not in favor of the naval forces. That's why Sayyidina Umar radiyallahu anhu wrote back to Uthman al-Thaqafi and said that I do not appreciate your actions, so I want you to hold off on all of these expeditions that you are doing towards Hind and Thind. And detailed account of this is reported by famous historian Baladari in Futuh al-Buldan. Some of the historians have not even mentioned these early expeditions, but some others have, like Baladari have done it. Similarly, Yaqut Himawi in Mu'jam al-Buldan have talked about the attack on Dibal by Hakam al-Thaqafi, and then he wrote Dibalu. The Dibal is one of the city in the region called Sindh, very close to the Arabian Sea. And Uthman bin Abi al-As ordered his brother Hakam to attack this region. And some historians said that the reason other historians have not mentioned about these earlier expeditions, because they were very small-scaled expeditions. They were not for the sake of conquering any land or moving into the other people's land, but merely smaller-scale expeditions in different regions in the outskirt or the coastal lines of the Sindh and the Hind region. So after these earlier expeditions, there is no other evidence that we find that during the time of the Khilafah of the Umar radiallahu anhu, there was any other movement that was made in these regions. So during the time of Umar radiallahu anhu, there were movements made only as far as the Sindh and the Makran. So you can say parts of Balochistan and part of the Sindh provinces of Pakistan, modern day Pakistan, but no other naval-based movements were made. These were all land conquests. And as I told you, that as the Persian Empire was getting conquered, and these were the allies of the Persian Empire, therefore these regions were also touched, and part of them were also conquered. During the time of Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu, in the 30th year of the Hijrah, Harith bin Murrah Abdi was given permission by Ali radiallahu anhu to go attack the northwestern region of the Hind. And Harith bin Murrah Abdi attacked it, and he got some progress made in this region. But later on, at the place of Qayqan, which is also called Gigan, or commonly in the Pakistan region, you know it by the name of Qalat. In this region, there was a very, very deadly war, and Harith bin Murrah and several other Muslims fell martyred in this battle. But this is much later. This is like the 42nd Hijrah. This is not the 30th Hijrah when originally they started moving in this direction. This is the time of Sayyidina Muawiyah radiallahu anhu. And then in the 44th Hijrah, a couple years later on, Muhlab bin Abi Safra, he was sent towards Hind. And he attacked a place which is again in Pakistan, in modern day Pakistan. The place is called Bannu. That's where he attacked. And then after that, Abdullah bin Suwara Abdi, he attacked again where you have Qalat or Gigan or Qiqan region. And then this was a revenge of the previous defeat that happened earlier on in the 42nd Hijrah. And this time, when Abdullah bin Suwara Abdi attacked the region of Qalat, this time he was this time Muslims were victorious. Similarly, during the times of Muawiyah radiallahu anhu, Ziyad bin Abi Sufyan sent Sinan bin Salma al-Huzli towards Makran, which is again in modern day Pakistan's province of Balochistan. This is the southern region of that province. And again, Muslims were victorious. Similarly, Ziyad bin Abi Sufyan also sent Rashid bin Amr Uzdi also towards Makran. And Rashid conquered Qiqan or Qalat region, and those pirates that were getting protected from these people, they were put to an end. So as I was telling you earlier, that the main reason of these movements were either these people were helping the Persians or they were supporting the pirates in the sea activities. So the bottom line is that from the times of Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu all the way to through the times of Sayyidina Muawiyah radiallahu anhu, there have been some movements that were made in this region. So just wanted to give you that idea. But during the time of the companions, of course, a lot more progress was made in this region compared to the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And if you're interested, we can talk a little bit more about the involvement of the Indian kings in the Islamic Empire during the expansion of the Islamic Empire into the Persian Empire, and how the kings of India tried to help the Persians defeat the Arabs. And that was the main reason that when the Islamic Empire was done expanding into the Persia, they started moving towards these Indian kings who initially helped the Persians against Muslims. So inshallah, if you're interested, we can talk more about that. But till next time, assalamu alaikum.